Look at call and response. I love it. Good morning, everyone. I'm Colleen Fukui Sketchley. I am thrilled and honored to be here emceeing the 78th Annual Memorial Day program for the Nisei Veterans Committee. I would like to start before some opening comments with some traditions. First, the presentation of colors. If we could call for the presentation from the Boy Scout Troop 252 from the Seattle Betsuan Buddhist Temple. Please stand if you are able.
March, high march. Ready, halt. Left, face. Color guard, prepare to post the colors. Post. Right, face. March, high march. Forward, march.
Leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance is Captain Kalini Louie, U.S. Air Force Reserve 446 Airlift Wing Associate.
Good morning, everyone. Please place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
And performing the national anthem is Danielle Hirano, 2017 NVC Scholarship Award recipient.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Well done. Thank you so much. Great. You may be seated. You know, I don't know why I get a little choked up every time I hear the national anthem. I have to admit, it happens every time, and certainly on Memorial Day, I think it hits me a little bit harder. I think those of us who are here today, we know why we are here. We know what Memorial Day is about. But for many Americans, right, Memorial Day is about conjuring up feelings of the beginning of summer, barbecues, ending of school, right, better weather. And many may not take the time to think about what this day is about. Oddly enough, somehow mattress sales have become associated with this holiday, right? But we know what this day is about, right? This was the day they called Decoration Day, right? That was established to recognize those that had died during the American Civil War, where citizens would come and place flowers on the graves of those who had died. For veterans, this day is often a day that they think about those with whom they served, who were killed in action while serving in the armed forces. For families, we remember loved ones that served selflessly. For myself and my family, we honor our great Uncle William, who is on the monument, served in the 442nd Regimental Combat Team as a medic and was killed in action in April 8th, 1945. We never got to meet him, right? But we honor his service and his sacrifice today. And for all of us, right? Today is a special opportunity for us to come together to remember the fallen and to honor service and sacrifice. This service has been going on for 78 years. I have not been here for the entire 78 years, but I have been here for the last 18 years, serving as the MC for this particular event. And it is such an honor to be asked to serve in this capacity for so many years. And 18 years is a long time, but I segue into, actually, there are so many people here who have served much longer than 18 years, who continue to come and attend this event, particularly elected officials and all of you that come every single year. So I would like to take an opportunity to recognize some of our elected officials that are here with us today. We have our guest speaker, the Honorable Erika Moritsugu, who's the Deputy Assistant to the President and the first ever Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Senior Liaison at the White House. We have Barry Costello, who's Vice Admiral, U.S. Navy retired, and served as Commander of the 3rd Fleet. Thank you for being here. We have Adam Smith, who represents the 9th Congressional District in the U.S. House of Representatives, here on stage. You'll get to hear from him in a minute. We have Bob Hasagawa, who I know has been here longer than I have in the 18 years, for sure, representing the 11th District in the U.S. Senate. Thanks, Bob. And your partner in crime, who's usually somewhere around right next to you, is Sharon Tomiko Santos, also somebody who has been here for a very long time, serving and supporting this particular event. So thank you, Sharon. She represents the 37th District in the House of Representatives. We also have the Consul General of Japan, Hisao Inagaki, and Mrs. Yuki Inagaki, who is also here in attendance here today. Thank you for being here. We will start off this particular program with an invocation given by Reverend Lisa Ishihara, the University Chaplain at Seattle Pacific University.
I invite you to pray with me or join me in a moment of reflection. Creator and loving God, as we gather together this morning on this Memorial Day, bless each one of us as we memorialize and remember the sacrifice and the steep cost that was paid by those who have come before us and served in the armed forces. We especially remember those who fought bravely in the 100th Infantry Battalion, who were integrated into the 442nd during World War II. God, we give thanks for those who served in the 442nd and courageously answered the call, even as they fought and endured racism and the incarceration of their families and loved ones in camp. May we honor and hold their memory in deep esteem today. God, we praise you for our loved ones and all of those who sacrificed so that we can be where we are today. God, I'm grateful for this community gathered here, and I pray that you would continue to work and move in these spaces to strengthen our relationships with one another, to ground us, to continue to move us towards redemptive, good, loving work. God, may we remember the generations, and may we not forget what has been paid for us. May we remember those that we honor today with much love and mercy and respect and honor. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. To bring us through meditation today, we have Rinban Katsuya Kusunoki from the Seattle Betsuin Buddhist Temple and Reverend Taijo Imanaka from the Seattle Koyasan Buddhist Temple.
Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Nama. For this Nisei Veterans Memorial Day Cemetery service, we chant a Juseige from the Raja Sutra. ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナマンダ、ナマンダ、ナマンダ、ナマンダ。A passage of peace and harmony from the Sutra of the Buddha of Immeasurable Life. Wherever the Buddha travels, be it country, province, town, or village, there is no place which does not benefit from his virtue. Peace and harmony reign throughout the land. The sun and the moon shine brightly. The wind and rain are timely. And no disaster or disease ever occurs. The land is prosperous and the people live in peace. So there is no need to use soldiers and weapons. People respect virtue, cultivate benevolence, and diligently observe propriety and humility. 世の中安穏なれ、仏法広まれ。May there be peace in the world, and may be the Buddha's teaching spread. ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモ。ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナマンダ、ナマン。Thank you.
Thank you very much. Providing today's reflection is Dale H. Watanabe, Blaine Memorial United Methodist Church member, treasurer of Minidoka Pilgrimage Planning Committee, and director of the International Student Center at Seattle University.
Good morning. It is an honor to speak before you at this special Memorial Day service, one that is significant to the Japanese American community in Seattle and beyond. Tracing roots back to the first ceremony in 1946 and the dedication of the granite obelisk in 1949, this hallowed ground has strong ties to the history and legacy of my ancestors, and I am honored, truly honored, to be here in 2023. Memorial Day is more than just a holiday for barbecues and store sales. My church, Blaine Memorial United Methodist Church, and my workplace, Seattle University, both recognize the significance of the loss and legacy behind the reason for the holiday and encourage us to pause to remember. As one of the oldest Nikkei churches in Seattle, we have a strong connection with Nisei veterans and the Christian spirit we share in the love of God. With a rich 125-year presence in the community, Blaine Memorial United Methodist Church has always recognized the sacrifice and legacy of those that came before, as it makes us all who we are. Because of the foundation our church is built on, with the love of God among us, we all share in the grief and sorrow of those we have lost. As an executive member of the Planning Committee for the annual pilgrimage to the Minidoka National Historic Site in Idaho, Memorial Day is also a time that I reflect on the experience of the incarceration years and how that shapes our community, which was forcibly displaced for many years. After the war, the priority to bring back and nurture community organizations have shaped who we are, who I am today. This day, I remember and recognize those Nisei veterans that sacrificed so much to bring us, to bring me to this day. The service of the 442, 100th Battalion, and military intelligence service will not and should not ever be forgotten. When Minidoka concentration camp was opened, an honor roll naming every person that was serving in the U.S. Army was listed on a board at the main entrance. Through photographs, we know it was erected in late 1943, and once the site became a national park, we began to work on a reconstruction of it. In 2011, a reconstructed honor roll was dedicated at the annual pilgrimage. Since then, like the obelisk here, the collection of names fills many of us with emotions. To have the names physically back on the site gave a public type of validation, acknowledgement, and lasting legacy. The names matter. Their stories matter. At the closing of our pilgrimage, we chose a space with the view of the honor roll and read the names of those who never made it back. They enlisted while their family was forced behind barbed wire and never returned to see them free again. Memorial Day is more than barbecue and sales, much more. The sacrifice, bravery, and courage of those who enlisted for a country that also questioned their loyalty, imprisoned their family because of race and race prejudice, is beyond compare. Around the final stages of completion of the Honor Roll project, at my job with Seattle University, we were also recognizing those Japanese American students that were at the university in 1942. Our 2011 commencement ceremony conferred honorary degrees to the students that were unable to complete their degrees. Researching their stories, one stood out to me because he did not return. Ben Kaiji Hara. I would like to share part of his story with you now. Ben was a student at Seattle University in 1942 with a bright future in front of him. His studies as a first-year civil engineering student was interrupted, and he ended up in Puyallup and Minidoka before joining basic training at Camp Shelby and the Military Intelligence Service Language School at Camp Savage, Minnesota. He was a technician 4th grade with the Special Troops, Allied Translator and Interpreter Section of the Supreme Commander of Allied Powers, and served in the South Pacific Campaign. He received the Presidential Unit Citation with 2 oak leaf clusters for participation in the New Guinea and Philippine Islands campaigns. While in service in Tokyo, he died October 22nd, 1945. His body was returned to Seattle, and he is buried in the Veterans section of Washelli Cemetery. That first year for me, seeing Ben's name on the honor roll at Minidoka filled me with an emotional response I was not prepared for. Knowing his story and how he never returned brought a face to the experience, one of many. What do you remember this Memorial Day? It is important to acknowledge grief and loss. Sometimes our community does not fully grieve in the way we should. A collective generation was impacted by the incarceration, and generations later, there is still trauma. Ceremonies like this, community gatherings, church communities, religious services, can be our outlet to remember and acknowledge the pain and loss. The spirit and legacy of those who went on before us continues to dwell with us through their stories of strength, courage, and perseverance. The legacy of our Nisei elders is one of triumph, and we are blessed by their actions. We cannot change the past and cannot change those that we have lost. We who are left can share the love that God has shown us as we bless the memories of those we have lost. And let us keep their memory and spirit alive for these individuals that fought to defend an American dream that is truly for every single one of us. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you, Dale. To give the welcome from the Nisei Veterans Committee is Lieutenant Colonel Michael Yaguchi, U.S. Air Force retired, who will be followed by Sean Brinsfield, the NVC Foundation President.
Thank you, Colleen. And again, welcome, distinguished guests, community leaders, military retirees, veterans, and a special welcome to our Nisei veterans in attendance today. You know, as we look out at this hallowed ground on this very special day, Memorial Day, a day designated to remember, honor, and mourn the fallen, please take the time to reflect on the life you live and the allowance these American soldiers of Japanese ancestry gave to each and every one of us in exchange for their ultimate sacrifice. In letters written to families and loved ones, the World War II Nisei soldier hoped that what they were doing, fighting for a country that was indifferent to them, would matter in the days and years after their wartime service. So it is fitting that Miss Erika Moritsugu, a Deputy Assistant to the President for Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Senior Liaison, to have the ear of the President and to share this day with us, because I believe it puts to rest the apprehensiveness these soldiers expressed in their letters about their service and if it would matter and count. Gold Star families present today should know that we are grateful that their loved ones did their duty as American soldiers. So today we also acknowledge and honor the families of those lost in war, for you bear a burden that only you can fully comprehend. We at the Nisei Veterans Committee believe it is our responsibility as grateful veterans to remember the nation's fallen. But today, we pay tribute to the fallen Americans of Japanese ancestry from the greater Seattle-Tacoma area. Thank you for attending today.
Welcome, everyone. We are here today to honor our brave fallen soldiers. One way to honor them is to say a few things about you. You take the time to remember by being here, and your presence makes this moment more meaningful. You're adding to our community ritual and to the group feeling. You're actually making this event one of the longest running events in the Northwest. Some of you have been coming here, well, some of you are actually from the same families that have been coming here for over 75 years, carrying the legacy of the Issei, the Nisei, and the Japanese American experience. So today, you all have in common an interest. Today, you all give an answer to the fallen soldier. Yes, soldier, you are remembered. No, soldier, you are not forgotten. May the Supreme Being bless and cradle with a gentle heart the souls and spirits of all our soldiers, their families, and their communities, past, present, and for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Also providing a welcome today is the Honorable Adam Smith, representing the 9th District in the House of Representatives and serves as the ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee, where he's a strong advocate for our military personnel and their families.
Thank you very much. It is always an honor to be here with the Nisei veterans to commemorate Memorial Day and to remember all those who gave their lives to defend and protect this country. And as the previous speakers have made more clear than I can, It is such a fitting thing for the Nisei veterans to be the symbol and to talk about what Memorial Day means, because they fought and died to protect a country that wasn't protecting them at the time. And I think that is one of many messages that is incredibly important about Memorial Day. Defending this country is worth it not because we are perfect, not because we live up to our ideals, but because we have those ideals and we are working towards them. And if we all work together, we will get there faster and we will build a better, freer, and fairer society for everybody. But the men and women who have served, who have given their lives, make that possible. One of the earlier speakers mentioned that it's important to think about the life you have in America today on Memorial Day and be thankful to all those who sacrificed to make that possible. And I do that every single day. I think about, having grown up in this community, the opportunity that I had, the opportunity that my family and my neighbors and my friends have, and I remember that none of that would have been possible if we didn't have people who were willing to give their lives to defend it, and in particular, the Nisei veterans, who stood up for the symbols of America and understood the challenges better than anybody. As back home, their friends, their family were being incarcerated. They stood up to fight for a better world, and we are all benefiting from that. So it is always great to be able to be here. I love listening to the stories and the perspectives of the families, and just remembering what Memorial Day means to me, to this country, and in particular to the Nisei veterans and all they sacrificed to protect this country. Thank you very much, and I hope everyone thinks about this often, not just on Memorial Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Smith. And as NVC Commander, it's an honor to introduce our distinguished speaker, the Honorable Erika Moritsugu. President Joe Biden appointed the Honorable Erika Moritsugu in April of 2021 to serve as Deputy Assistant to the President and the first ever Asian American Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander Senior Liaison at the White House. Her past government service included serving as the Assistant Secretary for Congressional and Intergovernmental Relations at the Department of Housing and Urban Development under the leadership of Secretary Julian Castro in the Obama administration. It was the first ever Senate Deputy Legislative Director at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. On Capitol Hill, she was Senior Representative of Senator Tammy Duckworth of Illinois, Senator Daniel Akaka of Hawaii, and Senator Majority Leader Harry Reid of Nevada. She served in various roles at the Senate Democratic Policy Committee. In the nonprofit sector, Erika managed 2 teams at the National Partnership for Women and Families that focused on economic justice and congressional relations, advocating for gender and race equity in workforce and health policies. She also led the government relations, advocacy, and community engagement teams at the Anti-Defamation League, which included championing its interreligious and interfaith work. She has dedicated her personal and professional life to fighting for social justice and empowering underserved communities and individuals. She lives on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. with her husband, Brian, and her 2 children, Vivian and Chester. Erika comes from a family of public service, including her father, Kenneth P. Moritsugu, who became the first Asian American U.S. Surgeon General in 2002. And she has many family members who served with distinction in the U.S. military, too. Please give a warm welcome to the Honorable Erika Moritsugu.
I am shorter than you, Commander. Thank you. Aloha, y'all. Commander Lieutenant Colonel Yaguchi, thank you very much for that generous introduction and for inviting me to join you all today to pay tribute to the ultimate sacrifice paid by the 66 fallen Nisei soldiers in the honor roll, and to recognize the loyalty, bravery, and patriotism of all those who fought alongside them and those who followed in their footsteps. Thank you to Congressman Smith for everything that you do to honor our nation's greatest heroes and for welcoming me into not just your district, but your community, and this is your family. And we're very, very grateful for your leadership over the years, both here, locally, and in Washington, D.C. How incredible is it that the Nisei Veterans Committee has kept this time-honored tradition intact for 78 consecutive years. Colleen, you put together a beautiful program for 18 years. You must have started when you were 3. But today we remember the men and women who served valiantly in the 100th Battalion, the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, the 522nd Field Artillery Battalion, the Military Intelligence Service, the Women's Auxiliary Corps, and the Army Nurse Corps during World War II. And for those who fought and died in conflicts before and after, and for those who remain missing in the Spanish-American War, in Korea, Vietnam, Grenada, and elsewhere. Whether it was abroad or on the home front, these brave souls served our nation when it mattered the most. We will not forget their heroism that sparks us into action with the courage and love of our country that they inspire. So, I'd like to recognize all of the Gold Star families and veterans from all conflicts who are here with us. If you're able to wave or stand, please do so that we can honor you. On behalf of President Biden, mahalo nui loa for your service and your sacrifice. Our nation is indebted to your family's sacrifices, and we honor you. I'm here today to represent the White House as a Yonsei, a fourth generation Japanese American. I grew up in Hawaii, where the sacrifice of the 100th Battalion was so taken for granted as a part of everyday life that I only recently learned to appreciate the power of the adage that I grew up with, okage-sama de. It loosely translates into I am who I am because of you. And so make no mistake, we are who we are because of them. Because of the heroism of the greatest generation, we are who we are because of them and you. I know because I personally had many people in my family serving in World War II. Like many, they rose to defend and serve this great nation. My grandfather, Richard Yutake Moritsugu, and 2 of his brothers served during the war. Grandpa served in the 298th Hawaii Territorial Guard from June 1941, and then with the 100th Battalion from its formation in June 1942. In December 1942, he was reassigned to the Military Intelligence Service, one of the Senpai Gumi from the 100th Battalion. And he served in the Saipan and Okinawa campaigns as a, quote, interpreter. But anybody who's had family who served in the MIS know that his citation of service, recommending his Bronze Star, tells a story of this quiet man who served with courage, empathy, grit, death-defying actions of the lives that he saved, of the families and comrades that he rescued. Now, my sister and cousin and I never heard any of this from him because Grandpa never, ever spoke of his time during the war, not even when he was asked, not ever in his lifetime. Meanwhile, our great uncle, Masato Nakai, or Uncle Curly, served with the 100th Battalion in Europe and was awarded the Medal of Honor for defending an outpost position near Pisa, Italy on August 19, 1944, during a fierce attack by a superior enemy force, including a concentrated enemy mortar barrage that seriously wounded him. He refused to leave his outpost, continued to fire and throw grenades, and finally succeeded in breaking up the attack and forcing the Germans to withdraw. That area, in the village that he held, by the way, at Camp Darby near Pisa, is now named in his honor. His brother-in-law, Ronald Kuroda, another 100th soldier, was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for separate action in Italy. Uncle Ronald's younger brother, Robert of the storied 442nd, was awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously for action that led to his wartime death in France. And there's an update to that story, too, about a Frenchman who took a metal detector during the pandemic, who recently returned Uncle Robert's high school class ring from Farrington High School that he found buried in the French countryside where this deadly battle took place. Now, at the same time, our great-grandfather and great-great-uncle were arrested and imprisoned at Honouliuli in Hawaii on Oahu. My great-great-uncle, this is my great-grandfather's baby brother, Yasuichi, was transported from Oahu to a New Mexico incarceration camp for being a leader of his fishing village in Heia in Kaneohe, Hawaii. My cousins and I recently had the profound experience to visit the Japanese American National Museum in Los Angeles to honor my great-grandfather and great-great-uncle in the Irecho, the most comprehensively researched book of names identifying those who were incarcerated at the 75 confinement sites across the nation during World War II. So, my friends, it is this juxtaposition, Dale Watanabe, I think, captured it better than I ever could, where the most distinguished servicemen including those who fought in the unit that was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, were fighting and many, many dying for our country. And it's seen side by side of the wartime incarceration of others, our beloved elders from the same family. Like so many, in your families, in our communities, in our American history, while our pain and trauma might linger, we are fortunate to have a president who honors our story and our history. He said, quote, "While their own families were behind barbed wires, Japanese Americans fought in defense of the nation's freedoms with valor and courage." This was a part of the president's statement, which I couldn't have been more honored to deliver at the Smithsonian Museum Day of Remembrance event this year, in which he acknowledged our community's patriotism and sacrifices. President Biden also recognized our heroes when he issued his proclamation last year commemorating the 80th anniversary of the signing of the infamous Executive Order 9066 to remember those who were unjustly incarcerated, but while also honoring our Nisei veterans who served. In the last couple of months, the president also signed the Amachi National Historic Site to preserve and protect this Japanese American incarceration camp in Grenada, Colorado, where nearly 10% of those incarcerated at Amachi enlisted in the military during the war. The president also enacted Representative Doris Matsui's Norman Waimanetta Japanese American Confinement Education Act into law, which reauthorizes the Japanese American Confinement Site program within the National Park Service to educate all Americans on the incarceration of the Japanese Americans during World War II. President Biden more recently honored 2 Japanese American soldiers, Staff Sergeant Edward N. Kaneshiro and Specialist 5 Dennis M. Fujii, with the Medal of Honor for their incredible gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty during the Vietnam conflict. He upgraded their awards to set the record straight, because not every Nisei soldier received the full recognition they deserved. Our president values what it means to be Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander in this country, and to educate others about the importance of the ANNHPI story as a part of the American story, which is why he also signed into law a bill that brings us closer to having our own National Museum of ANNHPI history and culture. This is a huge milestone in honoring our legacy and heritage. This museum will be a place to capture the courage and character of those that we are here to honor today, and to have a home in our nation's capital. Since the beginning of the administration, President Biden and Vice President Harris have committed to empowering and uplifting ANNHPI individuals, families, and communities. And again, it's my greatest honor to work for a president who's committed to our veterans, our military families, including our beloved uncles and fathers, grandfathers, aunties, moms, and grandmas. And as he stated in the proclamation honoring this commemoration and ordering the lowering of the flags, he said, quote, "These brave service members are not only the heart and soul of our country, they are our very spine. Today and every day, we remember their service and ultimate sacrifice to our nation. We reflect on our sacred and enduring vow to care for their families. And together, as we pause and pray, we pledge to continue defending freedom and democracy in their honor. May God bless our fallen heroes, and may God protect our troops. Mahalo nui loa, malama pono."
Thank you so much for those words. So encouraging. She helps make us feel seen, right? She gets us, and she sits at the highest level of our country. We're so lucky to have you there. Thank you so much for those words today. We have a very long tradition of a ceremony where we place wreaths at the foot of this monument. And with that, we'll get started with some representatives from our community. Representing the Gold Star families is Alan Nakamoto, past NVC commander, and Frank Kiyuchi, the NVC executive council member. Representing the Japanese consulate is Hisao Inagaki, Consul General of Japan, and Mrs. Yuki Inagaki. Representing Japan America Society of the State of Washington is Shoko Farmer, Chair, and Dale Watanabe, Executive Director. Representing the Federation of Buddhist Churches of Seattle, we have the Seattle Betsuin Buddhist Temple with Leanne Nishi Wong, Board President. Representing the Seattle Koyasan Buddhist Temple is Hana Imanaka. And representing the Seattle Nichiren Buddhist Church is Mary Kawaguchi. Thanks for bringing the next generation to come and help us with this. Appreciate it. Representing the Seattle Japanese American Citizens League is Kyle Kinoshita, co-president. Representing the Japanese Cultural and Community Center of Washington is Kurt Tokita, Board President. Representing Kawabe Memorial House is Emi Mizuki, Executive Director, and Rick Takeuchi, Deputy Director. Representing Cairo Northwest is Scott Cushino, Board President, and Nancy Carlos Nakano, Board Officer. Representing the UW Nikkei Alumni Association, SINCOA, is Rick Takeuchi, past NVC commander. Whose wreath is always appropriately purple and gold. Representing Seattle Dojo is Sensei Alan Yamada. Representing American Legion Cathay Post 186 is Hayden Marr, Commander, and Jackson Chan, Sergeant at Arms. I love it. Improvise. Good job. It is a lot harder than it looks. Great. Representing both the Nisei Veterans Committee and the NVC Foundation is Lieutenant Colonel Michael Yaguchi and the NVC Foundation President Sean Brinsfield. Providing our benediction today is Reverend Karen Yokota Love, Senior Pastor at Blaine Memorial United Methodist Church.
Friends, it's been an honor to be here in this space with you today on the sacred ground as we remember. So may the Lord, our God, bless us all present here to memorialize our ancestors, our families, our friends, loved ones, and our neighbors who lived and died to preserve our dignity, to protect our families and friends, and to achieve freedom in our nation and this world. May the Lord our God remember all of those brave fallen soldiers who gave this nation its greatness. And may the Lord honor our Nisei vets for their sacrifice and courage. May our memory and all of those who served in the armed forces be an honorable one, full of gratitude and thanksgiving. And may we remember with much love and mercy to those who died, whether on air, land, or sea. Go forth, my friends. May the peace of Christ be with you today. Amen.
Please stand if you are able. Boy Scout Troop 252, please retire the colors.
Color guard, troop, attention. Color guard, march, high march. Forward, march. March, high march. Ready, halt. Right, face. Color guard, retire the colors. Reform ranks. Right, face. Color guard, march, high march. Forward, march.
Thank you to the Boy Scout Troop. Thank you so much to our guest speaker, Erika Moritsugu, to Adam Smith for coming and sharing this day with us, to all of you and all of our special guests who are here today. Thank you for joining us for the 78th Annual Memorial Day program. We hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. You could all put your coats on now and warm up a little bit. I could see the shivering. So have a wonderful rest of the day, and we will look forward to seeing you next year. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Again. Take care of this guy.
Exactly.